Thomas Cody, and this is Suspend, Disbelief, the podcast where we talk about the paranormal, the taboo, and the mysterious occurrences in our universe. And today I have a very special guest, Cedric Sweet. Before I introduce you guys, of course, he has been on the show before. We are a Native American paranormal podcast where we talk about Native American scary stories, whether they be, or Indigenous scary stories, whether they be Native American or Latino or from whatever cultures around the world. We want to tell all those stories, want to hear those stories. And we just, I don't know, we want to highlight how cool our culture is and also introduce people into their culture stories. And some of the best way to do that is just, something that's entertaining, like scary stories. And so our goal is to introduce you to scary stories, which may or may not encourage you to look more into your culture, get in tune with who you are. And so today, again, very, very special guest, Cedric Sweet. Cedric, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Cedric Sweet. I go by Chief Sweet online. I have a bunch of YouTube channels. I'm Seminole from Oklahoma, not Seminole from Florida, from the Seminole Nation tribe. I have been interested into the paranormal, and it's funny enough, I actually started my YouTube channel doing paranormal stuff, and then I started doing other stuff because I just know a lot of people were interested. So I started just cruising, and I was like, I'm going to try some other stuff but it's something I always want to go back to, and so I might actually start up another channel. When I do it, we got to have to collab and because I was making a lot of horror films, like short horror films,
absolutely.
Like how you are. So.
I saw one of those. Your cousin Shyla sent me one of those a long time ago. She's like, "Hey, you guys should be friends." He made this a long time ago. I was like, "Sweet, yeah, we should be buds." So it's cool, man. Well, however we can collaborate, however we can help you in any way, whether we shoot it for you, you guys write us a great story, you help us throw it all together, we work together in that way, or same thing with us, whether we bring you onto the crew and then you help us in anything else, like I'm down for it. So I'm always down to help Indigenous people get into the film space and also just collaborate, because I know that both of us have very creative minds, and we could be a freaking power couple.
Exactly. Dude, I forgot. I was going to say, the last episode I was on was kind of a crazy episode because I don't even know how many views. The last episode I feel like didn't get a lot of views. It's like 400, right? There was something like that, right?
I don't remember, to be honest. I'll have to check. But yeah, it didn't do incredibly well, for sure. We have a couple episodes that have broke 1,000 views.
Yeah.
A couple thousand,
But what's crazy about that episode is, and I feel like this should applaud to you guys and it's kind of cool because you never know who's watching. A Blumhouse studio executive was watching that podcast.
God, that's insane.
And then from that point, he emailed me and he was like, there's a story you told on a podcast that I'm very interested in, and I would like to write a series about it. And would you like to help me? And I was like, oh, yeah, for sure. And it was about the Stikini. He was talking about the Stikini, and he was like, you're Seminole. And I was watching this podcast, and I was just I was like, Cary, this is crazy that a studio executive of Blumhouse was watching your podcast. Yeah. I feel like that's I
remember you told me that 6-8 months ago, something like that. And so I'm still anxiously waiting on any type of news from it.
That's what I was going to start. Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to start off with that, I was going to talk about it.
Okay, before we get into that, that'll be a little teaser.
Okay.
Let's still keep talking about yourself a little bit. So you've been on YouTube for how many years? How many subscribers do you have? Do you make a living doing it? What's that like for you?
Oh, dude, it's awesome. I feel like it's just like you. I feel like film is such a big part of my life. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I didn't want to be an actor. I wanted to be a filmmaker, right? I wanted to write. I wanted to ever since I was little, I was like, oh, I'd love to make horror movies, make shows. Yeah.
That's kind of the same with me. I much prefer to be behind the camera than being in front of the camera, just because I just love everything technical behind the camera, and I love telling the stories. I love directing. I love building the world, and as much as I love acting, I think it's cool and it's fun. It's just so much harder to do all of that stuff when you're in front of the camera. And so I prefer to be behind the camera, telling the stories and let other people, be the face and stuff like that, better looking people than me.
Exactly.
I like being behind the camera. So I'm right there with you, man.
I know. And then writing, I feel like I don't know. I always thought like, oh, behind the camera is like where I was like, I don't know. I don't. I know a lot of people want to be actors, but that was like the thing. So my whole life ever since then, that's kind of led to like, you know, I started making skits right out of college. I was like, I'm gonna make like
Okay.
skits, all kinds of stuff. I'll make comedy, I'll make horror. We made a bunch of horror skits. We made some
Oh yeah.
comedy skits, and then I was posting them to YouTube. And so
Mhm.
from there, uh, I forgot which. Oh, I had a comedy called Res Cops, and I mean it was like a
Nice.
short. It was like a spoof on cops,
Yeah.
but it was Res Cops, and that's what was crazy. It led me to get like a casting agent, and then from the casting agent, like I started like getting
Wow.
little. Yeah, I know it was weird how things worked out, but
Yeah.
it was. I got like a taste of Hollywood. I was doing like extra work and like being on
Yeah.
sets of stuff, and
Okay, so you've done
um,
all that
yeah,
monotonous stuff. Yeah.
and when I was doing that, I was kind of like, it was. I mean, if there's any actors out there or people who've been on sets before, like what I didn't like was like there's so much time where you do absolutely nothing. Like,
Yeah.
you show up and you're there for like 8 hours a day just chilling, and I was like, that was horrible for me.
Yeah.
Just sitting for 8 hours doing nothing, like waiting for your part or waiting for them to come around to get to that scene. And you're just like waiting. You're
Yeah.
just like, oh man, when's this gonna happen? When's this gonna, when's this gonna
Yeah.
roll around? So I feel like I didn't like that. And then plus two, it's like a
Yeah.
job, like whatever you do, it's just kind of like,
Oh
oh, we
yeah.
gotta, do this, bang these things out. It didn't feel creative. So I was kind of like missing that creativeness of YouTube. And that's when I was like, I'm gonna jump into YouTube again because I feel like this is not what I was expecting. And so I started making
Yeah.
YouTube videos. And I made YouTube when I jumped back into YouTube. I knew like I was like I should like, and it's like if you want to do YouTube, that's what you should do is like pick a niche. Like Fuse like horror,
Yeah.
it fits
Mhm.
perfectly together. And before I was just like throwing like I was doing I was doing horror, then comedy, and then like
Mhm.
random skit. It was a
Yeah, you're just trying to
conglomerate of
see what
ideas.
landed. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
see what
get it.
landed. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna pick a niche. And so I started with tech, and I was doing tech for a bit, and then I had reptiles my entire
Okay.
life. And my cousin was like, and I never thought about making reptile videos, but like my cousin was, you should make some reptile videos, dude, because like you're so good at teaching. Like if you do that, then I feel like that would do really well. And I was like, I never thought of that. And so when I did that, that blew up like crazy. And now I have 135,000 subscribers, and it is my full time job.
It's your
Like,
full time job.
yeah,
Holy
it's my full
cow!
time job. And
Didn't
so
you
that's what I
just
do.
didn't you just build a studio out there in the
Yeah,
middle of nowhere?
I did. I
Wow,
built a YouTube
that's
studio
amazing,
in the
dude. That
middle of
is
nowhere.
incredible. Wow,
And then that's
sweet,
that's that's where I'm at now. Is just
sweet.
grinding to 1 million now.
How many reptiles do you have?
I have 32.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome. So what are the ranges from reptiles? What all do you have? What's the most basic to the craziest that you have?
I have some snakes, some pythons. I have some turtles. I have like a sulcata tortoise. It's like a giant, super like large tortoise. I have some
Yep.
bearded dragons, and then I have some African lizards. They're called the Eurymastix, and they're really colorful. That's probably like my most craziest lizard because they're like kind of expensive. They range like between
Yep.
$800 to $2,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Actually, I do have one question regarding your reptiles.
yeah.
This is from a listener, and let's see, because I put the feelers today on like, hey, anybody have any questions for him? And somebody says, does he have any creepy stories relating to his reptiles on his page? Not sure exactly what that means, but do you have anything?
I don't actually. That's a good question though. I like that. That's a
Yeah.
really good question. Oh,
All right,
actually,
and
one
then
time,
yeah,
yeah, I heard something in the middle of the night, and it sounded like a little boy, but it
oh
was one of my
God, you're kidding
lizards.
me. How does a lizard make a little like sounds like a little boy?
Oh man, if sometimes when I'm like really loud, some of my animals, like my
Mm,
frogs, I have some frogs that
mhm.
when they croak, they don't sound like frogs. They kind of sound weird. Like it kind of sounds like crying. I know it sounds wild, right? So that's like in the middle of the night,
Uh-huh.
like in some places, it's kind of interesting how it builds on like, where scary stories like originated. But like sometimes people hear stuff in the middle of the night
Hmm.
and it's an
Oh yeah.
animal, but it sounds terrifying. And like my
Oh,
kids one
absolutely.
night when I got this lizard, they heard it and they like got up in the middle of the night. I was like, ah, and took off running. And I was like, what is it? What is it? And then I heard it and I was like, it scared me at first. I was like, oh man, that's my lizard. But it's a tokay gecko and they sound crazy. They're like, they're all like,
What?
like those kind of sound like that.
Yeah. Wow.
But it scared
And then I
everybody
have
in the
another
house.
one regarding your reptiles. It says, this is from, I'll read that in a second. Has he ever thought any of his reptiles were a form of skinwalker?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. Okay. No, I have not.
Yeah.
But they are pretty smart and that's kind of scary. So
Yeah. Well, just be careful if if a giant snake slithers up to your porch and once in, maybe be a little weary.
Yeah, if that happens, yeah, then I'll be like, if a snake was like up on my porch just chilling, like, oh, can I have a
Yeah.
home? I'd be like, get out of here.
You're like, hey, how'd you find me?
Yeah, who are you?
Uh, well, those are two of the listener questions. So thank you, Chronically Indigigoth. And the other one is just Inactive Account is the name of their Instagram.
Okay.
So I think they're trying to slither into the DMs all secret like. So
Love it.
anyway, well, sweet. All right. So you've been on YouTube for how many years? I'm sorry, you probably said that already.
Total 9 years.
9 years. And
Yeah,
you have a couple different channels. Your most successful channel is the reptiles. And
yeah,
so you've kind of devoted your career to raising reptiles, documenting that whole journey, which is really freaking cool. My son actually just got to this channel on YouTube, which I need to introduce your channel as well. But this other one, it's like called Terra Green or something like that. And
yes, yeah, yeah. I know
yeah,
that
this
one.
guy builds terrariums for his fish and reptiles and all sorts of critters, and we'll watch that for like hours, and we're just like, dude, this is awesome. So I need to get him on your channel because I think it'd be really cool to like surprise him and take him out to your spot and
Oh
have him
yeah,
see all the critters and stuff like that, because he'd freaking lose his mind. I think he'd think that's the coolest because he loves going to the pet store, looking at all the critters and snakes and all that stuff. He loves catching critters. It's so much fun for
it
sure.
is. It is.
Well, cool. All right, so you've been on this podcast before, 2022, so it's 3 years. We haven't published that many episodes since then, but we're trying to be more active and stuff like that. And I feel like right now, better than any time, is it's really important for us to get our stories out there, make sure that they're told by us and
Yeah,
that they're told the right way. Because there might be, somebody who's writing a movie about Stikinis, and they're like, yeah, who needs to get someone that actually knows what they're talking about to help me make this movie? I'll just do it myself. And so, like, for us to tell these stories, the stories that we've heard from generation to generation, is just incredibly important to tell them, get them right, and encourage young Native Americans, young natives, to get more into their culture. And a fun way to do that, scary stories. So you've been on before. You told quite a few stories about owls and Stikinis. Can you remind us what a Stikini is?
the skinny is like, to me, it's like a skinwalker. It's just like a shapeshifter. When you get like really down deep into it, it's like a bad medicine man, someone who's wanting
Okay.
to like cause a lot of harm to you. But like, the mythology of it is like they can change shapes and turn into like things and mimic voices, you know. And one of the like most scariest things, which like I always like, it was a dream of mine to like make a Stikini movie as well. But like one of the scariest things is like they say like you have to be careful, don't laugh at it or don't talk to it or it'll come to your window, and like while you sleep it'll like sing a lullaby to like put you in like a sleepwalking, and it'll come and make you
Yo.
open up the door to let itself in to your house. And so like, I always thought that was like terrifying. It's like Freddy Krueger vibes of like while you sleep,
Oh yeah.
it's gonna like
Mhm.
put you in a hypnosis to make you like let it in
Yeah.
your house, and then come in your house
Well, I
and just
mean,
like put bad energy and bad medicine, make you sick and all kinds of like bad stuff.
yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's very like witch-like because, that's like the lore of the witches in Salem and stuff like that, where they could sing kids out of their houses, like in Hocus Pocus, to
Yes.
get them to come out into the woods and stuff like that. And that's just, that's haunting. And so the idea of a shapeshifter, someone who can shift into owls and stuff like that, ugh, that's crazy.
Dogs, anything, demons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, um, what do you know about the transformation on shapeshifters?
There's like there's a couple of stories out there. A lot of them are like, they have to like murder a child. Like if
Okay.
you kill a child and then like, that is like one way to do it. And then there was like this older one that I heard growing up, and it was like you have to like find a certain tree, and then
Uh,
they would cut out their heart in the middle of the night and like bury it in that tree. And
yeah, I've
then they
also
would
heard
like
that.
gain the powers like that. I don't know if you heard that one. Did you ever hear that one?
I did hear that one, and this is from my buddy Jeff. He said they'd also hide their heart and some of their organs in the tree to keep them safe from, say, hunters or something like that.
Yeah.
And because if they get shot or they get killed or they get stabbed or something like that, and their shapeshift form, they'll be okay because their organs are safely put away in a tree. And but one way that I heard to truly kill a skinwalker, or not a skinwalker, Stikini, is to find the hiding spot for their organs and stab them or burn them or whatever to stop the heart from beating.
Yeah.
And I also heard, and you're probably going to get to this, but that it's a very unbelievably painful process to shapeshift, and you have to like vomit up like your organs and stuff like that. You open up into the tree to hide them and stuff like that before you go out into your, your owl form or your animal form or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's exactly the same thing, exact same story. There's like a couple of different ones, but that's the same one I heard. The one I like hear the most is the tree one, and then they
Yeah.
say if like get to the organs, if they like know you're coming, they'll like try to scare you away from that like area and stuff. And I was like, ooh,
Yo, so that's how you know you're close.
yeah, pretty close.
Yo, chill. Yo, dang. Wow, that's wild. So the last time you were on, you told some freaking great stories, and one of the ones that was my favorite was, you're out in the woods with your cousins and staying at somebody's house. I can't remember, but you heard like a chorus of owls,
Oh
and
yeah, that was
then
my house. Yeah,
oh, that was your house, and then they
yeah,
all started like laughing at you, or something similar to that, and where you could feel them laughing at you, and that was just like the scariest thing I could think of.
yeah. That was crazy. And the weird thing about those times when like stuff like that happens, and I don't know if it kind of all. It's a very long story, but
Mhm.
that was like where I grew up, and it was like my land that was given to us like on the Trail of Tears. They're like
Yeah, your
there's the
allotment
allotted
land. Yeah.
land for the
Mhm.
natives, and so like they gave us like I think it was 120 acres,
Yeah.
and so a lot of bad stuff happened on that land though, like not just like
Of course. Yeah.
Skidaganies, like just murders and people died, horrible deaths, and all kinds of like crazy stuff.
I mean, yeah, it is cursed, but not in the
Yeah,
sense of like, oh, I'm going to put a curse on this land, but it
yeah.
is like, like people have died on it. It's cursed in that way that it's just like, it's not good, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes
right.
a lot of sense.
And it's crazy is like since I moved, when I lived there, stuff like that would happen, like crazy stuff, and
Mhm.
like I would hear things, and it was almost so normal that I like a lot of times it would happen, and I would just be like, "Oh, that's crazy," just like, "Oh, wow." But
Oh, yeah.
when I left, it's been like it makes me think like maybe it was something there because now that I left, I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been living away for nine. Like I moved 9 years ago. That's when I started YouTube because
Yeah.
I had better internet. But like for 9 years in this house that I'm in the city, dude, there is no ghosts. There's no weird things happening. you
Yeah.
know, so
Wow.
that's pretty kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
it's kind of
Seriously.
weird.
Yeah. Right
Maybe it's
on.
true.
Yeah. So you are Seminole.
Yeah.
What are some other like folk tales and stuff like that you can speak of about your culture,
Oh
about your
yeah. Like
tribe
I could.
specifically?
That is one thing. Is like the people are like don't talk about it. That stuff. But like me, ever since I was a kid,
Sure.
I was always like I'm going to talk about anything. I'll yell it out loud. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Well. So before you continue, I don't know. My thing with the podcast is I'm not trying to teach anybody how to do bad medicine. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
encourage anybody to go out there and learn this dark medicine, this dark magic. I'm just more trying to educate what to look out for, that this magic is real,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that it's not just like it's not hocus pocus. It's
Yeah.
not. Ugh. It is real and it is out there, and you need to know what to look out for, and that things that happen to other people. So, like, we're not trying to teach you. Don't go out there and start learning this medicine. That's not our
Yeah.
goal here. So, we're not trying to give you any secrets, any details about all that stuff, but we're trying to educate in a fun way,
Yeah.
like that this magic is real and it is kind of fun to spook each other and stuff like that, especially around the campfire.
Hmm.
And yeah, so all that being said, go on, continue.
Oh yeah, I mean that is very true, and like a lot of it became more hocus pocus when like the adults were trying to teach the kids. When
Mhm.
like the adults knew like okay we don't mess with this stuff, but then the kids are like
Yeah,
that still doesn't sound so scary. It's medicine, and then you're like okay, you want to get real scary,
yeah,
like this person
yeah,
can imitate voices, it shapeshifts, it can change form, and they start going into that. That's when it starts to become almost like mythological, but at the same time,
yeah.
it's like it is kind of scary. But
Hmm.
I talk about all kinds of stuff like the little people.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
the little people, the Stiginis. I can't remember if there's any more. Those are the main two that everybody talks of in like my culture, the Seminoles, is the little people.
Yeah.
And some people are scared. I was just watching your last podcast though with Riker.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it's like he said. He said the LPs, and like my cousin, when I say the
Uh,
LPs, even just LP, the word, just the letters, she's all like,
gets a
"Ooh,"
spook.
she'll be like, "Shh," like she'll be like, "Shut."
Well, for me, like I've never had any experiences, and
Yeah,
it is honestly one of like the spookiest things I could think of. But I don't know, like I just feel like maybe that magic has never been drawn to me, and
yeah,
that's okay. Like I don't physically want to see a little person. I don't want to experience anything like that.
yeah,
And I acknowledge that that magic is real and it's out there, and that other people have had experiences with it. And I don't want to put that on you. I don't want to try to conjure that back up against you. But I want to hear more stories, especially little people
yeah.
specifically.
Oh man, but yeah, I mean, I have two that from both my mom. They never happened to me either, but like my mom told me two of
Okay.
them, and it had like it really happened, and so she was like, I don't know, I was kind of like, whoa, that's just crazy, and I don't know how true it is. Maybe it was like she really did happen though, like you know how true it is, I don't know, but or maybe I don't know, but
Sure.
one of them was when she was younger, and I don't know if I told this one on the last podcast, but I'll tell it again because it's always something I always think about, you know,
Nice.
and I was like, but there was a family member and he was like messing around and stuff, and they would always say, "Don't go out in the woods," and if you're gonna go out in the woods, like little people can mess with you and stuff. And
Oh
so
yeah.
like he was asleep, and she says that like he he went off in the woods. I guess someone saw him like walking off in the woods, and then when he went into the woods, he was missing. They like woke up the next day and they was like, "Where's he at?" And then he was like, they was like looking for him, couldn't find him, and then finally come walking out of the woods, and he mentally was not the same anymore. He like was like mentally impaired, and then he was like kept on saying like the little people. There's like he's like there was little people took me out in the woods. Little people took me out in the woods, and then ever since then he's been like how you would think of someone like he acted like someone who like did drugs hardcore, like acid
Yeah.
or something, and then they're not right anymore. They're like saying a bunch of crazy stuff,
God.
and then they
Maybe
was
it
like
broke his
it's the little
brain.
people that did that to him. They like mess with his brain while he's out in the woods and stuff.
Yeah.
And who
Yikes,
knows?
man.
Maybe he went out there and like fell on a rock and like got brain damage. But he's when he came back, he was saying like they messed with his brain, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Wow.
that's even crazier though.
Yeah. Jeez.
And then the other one is like of a moment. Now this one, happened to her like firsthand. But she was when she was young. They would just go play in this creek that was by my house, and I grew up there too.
Mm,
Like I go to that creek all the time, And so it's like I don't know, a family creek that we all go down to, and it's really beautiful.
mm.
But
Where
one
at?
time, her and her sisters went down there, and when they walked down to the creek, there was a bunch of like beautiful pearls everywhere, like little pearls, and they were like all over the place. And there was so many that her and her sisters started like picking them up, and they filled up 2 shoeboxes full of pearls. And they were like, "Oh, this is so cool!" Oh my goodness! And they took them back to my grandma. My grandma was older, and she was like very in tune with all that stuff. And when she took it back, she was like, started screaming out. She's like, "Ah, take it back down there! Take it back down there! Those are little people's. Those are little people's jewelry." And they like put them out there to like get little kids. She's like, "You need to take it back down there right now." She's like, "I don't want to see it. Go, go, go!" And she like hurried them. She's like, take them back, and throw them all out there." And so they went back down there. They just tossed the shoe boxes down, and then they took off. And the next morning, they went down there to see if they were there, and they were gone. And I was,
No way, dude.
I don't know. In my culture, they
Yes.
always said little people would try to like get kids. They would always like try
Oh,
to steal kids for
yeah.
some reason. I don't know
That was
why.
the one thing that, like, when I grew up, I never heard about little people from like my parents or anything like that. But it was the neighborhood kids that I grew up with. I grew up in Tecumseh, not too far from you,
Yeah,
and I grew up in this little neighborhood of about 100 houses called we called it the Indian Village. That's what it was called. That's what everybody called it. And so
yeah,
it was just like a bunch of different tribes all in one little place, and it was low income housing. I think we paid $400 a month for like a 5 bedroom house or something like that. And all the neighborhood kids, we'd all play outside, hide and seek and stuff like that. And so like naturally, as things go, especially as a native, we'd tell stories. And I remember for the first time hearing about little people from one of my Pawnee buddies, one of the Knife Chief brothers, and he was saying that, and he might have just been messing with me, but
yeah,
he was saying that it was, of course, his cousins. It's always about the cousins. Like they would go outside and they'd play, and then they'd play with other kids or whatever, and they weren't other kids, so they didn't know that at the time. And they would go home, and these other kids would come up to their windows, like knock in the windows, and like try to get them to come back outside, especially at night. And the parents didn't know about it. And so they would knock, and then like the little girl, the younger sister, she would climb out the window and go play with him in like the middle of the night. And I remember like at some point the parents got involved and like, don't go out there with those other kids because they're going to take you and you're never going to come back. And then the Knife Chief brothers, when they're telling me, it's like, yeah, what happens is they take these little kids and then you don't come back, and then eventually you turn into a little person, and that scared the crap out of me when I was like 12 years old, 11 years old, that I just like never ever wanted to look out my window at night, dude. Oh my god, scares the crap out of me even thinking about it today.
Oh my god, dude! That when you told that story, I feel like I heard a similar story before from somebody. The same thing. It's like little people. That's what they said. Is they'll come to your
Uh-huh.
window, and that's how they get the kids. Is they come like, come play with us, and you go out there and bam, you never come back, or you come back, and that's the thing. You come back and you're not right in the head anymore. They say they like
Yeah.
play with your brain, or they mess with you,
Oh
mess you
yeah.
up, and
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely. And
very
that's
similar
something
story.
I've heard.
I
That's
love that
something I've
story.
heard with medicine, with magic, is like when you get cursed or when you're playing with medicine and stuff like that, like one bad thing could happen and then like all of a sudden like your brain is toast, like there's no coming
Yeah,
back from it,
no, I
and
heard
you're
that
just
same
basically
story.
a vegetable or a robot for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, god, that's the scariest thing I could even think of. And that's one of the reasons why I've never ever wanted to mess with medicine, and probably will never mess with it, is because you do something wrong, you or it backfires on you or whatever, like, dude, you're gone. That's
Yeah,
it. It's
exactly.
lights
Right.
out. So, God, that's
I
crazy
heard
to
the
think about.
same thing, and I always heard that too. Like, you have to be careful. I heard another thing about that is like, the medicine men were smart. I don't know any medicine men, but like, I heard this from a elder, and he was like, medicine men eventually got smart enough that if they put bad medicine on people, they realized that there was good medicine men to like block that and send
Yeah.
the energy and stuff back to them. So they got smart enough to put like a middleman, and they would get like a kid or a child. That's why they say don't ever do it. And they said they'd use like the little
Mhm.
people to like get the kid to do stuff, like put a feather somewhere, and that they could like insert their way into someone's lives that way. But
Yeah.
if that kid touched it and put the feather there, if that bad medicine came back that was meant for him, it would hit the kid instead, because like the medicine men are just like evil people, right? So like they
Yeah.
did that to like protect themselves, and I was always like,
Mhm.
oh, that's so interesting. So they was
Yeah.
always like, yeah, be careful about sending the medicine back because you don't know who you could harm. Someone that could be total
Yeah.
innocent of it, and they had
Yep.
no clue. And I was like, that is fascinating. You know,
Wow. So going back to little people, what are some protocols that you've heard to deter little people, or to try to, um, be on neutral grounds with little people? Are you aware of
Don't-
any?
yeah, don't say their names.
Okay. Don't talk
Yeah,
about them like we're doing right now.
yeah, exactly. Like the native. When I think we say there's. It's funny. Like I said, some people don't even say little people, right? And then
Yeah.
like if I said it in like Seminole, would be like Stillabuskis. But like some
Okay.
people wouldn't even say that. They'd be like
Yeah.
Stillabuskis to like it's basically saying like Schmiddle Schmeeple. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Just add the extra couple
They'd be
syllables.
like, I want to say it this way, so that way I didn't say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like don't talk about them, because if you talk
So
about
can
them, it
I
just
chime
brings them
in
in.
really quick?
Yeah,
From what I believe,
yeah, yeah,
and we're talking about it right now, I think that superstition really comes from when you talk about them, taunting them. I feel like there might be a little bit of
yes,
miscommunication there. And when the elders say, like, don't talk about them, I feel like what that means is don't be curious about them and don't try to seek them out. And
yes,
of course, not talking about them is one way to, surefine way to, that your grandkids, that your kids aren't going to have any experiences with them because they don't know about them. So
yeah,
let's not talk about it. Let's pretend they don't exist, until you're the right age to talk about it or whatever. But like the same thing with like skinwalkers, Stikinis, stuff like that. The taboo to not talk about it, in my opinion, is to not seek it out and to not taunt or to not to blaspheme about
yeah,
these things, because they're very real, and that medicine can come and haunt you if you're not respectful about it. And
yeah,
I think that we're being respectful about it, but there's obviously blurred lines there where we don't actually know like what's okay and what's not okay. We're just kind of feeling it out here. So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we'll take the bullet for the listeners here. If something bad happens to us, we'll 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 chime in and tell you, we had an experience or something like that because we're talking
Yeah.
about it. But I don't know. We'll see.
I hope not. I hope not. My cousin had an experience at the house that I was talking about, the land,
Okay,
one
go ahead.
time, and he was
Tell me about
taunting
it.
it, and I think I told this on the podcast
Yeah.
last, but it's a very good
Hmm.
story, and it's like it is
Yeah.
crazy, and I had the footage of it happening. I had like literally, I recorded it because we was ghost hunting, and he was just like, he was like, "Oh, come on, do something. I'm not afraid," and he was like taunting it, like actually, like, "Oh, you ain't real," blah blah blah. And then he was like, something's stinging me, something's biting me, and he was like, "Oh gosh," and I was like, "Oh, I thought it was red wasp because he was in my old house."
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh shoot," and I was like, "Here, lift up your shirt. It's probably like a scorpion, a red wasp on you." And when he lifted up his shirt, there were just 3 scratches down his back, and it
Yeah.
literally visually appeared in front of my face when I lifted his shirt up. Like I just seen it, like it was like kind of red, and then it's got like really red. And I
Hmm.
was like,
Oh my
and I recorded it. Like I'm about to send you the recording of that, but I had it, and I was like, "Oh look," and we was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," and he was like, "Oh, my back," and he got like sick after that. He got like sick for a little bit after that, and so
Gosh.
like I
Yeah.
said, it sounds crazy, but like I've witnessed these things,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
it's weird when these things happen. Like I said, it's the weirdest thing because you're almost like sitting around, like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
Like what the heck? This is really weird. Like this is
Yeah.
happening. It almost like feels unbelievable, and you're seeing it with your own eyes, and then you experienced
Yeah.
it. Then when you come out of it, you're also like, that didn't happen, but I was
Yeah.
there. you know?
Yeah. So going back to protocol about little people is being respectful. Obviously, there are certain areas that are known for being where little people live, and like if you, it's not like go set up a trail cam and you'll catch them on footage. Like no, like they are spiritual beings, and they will present themselves when they want to. You're not just going
Yeah.
to catch them running around. I mean, you might with your eyes, but they're not going to show up on camera or anything like that. Um, so being respectful of where they are, and then leaving offerings. If you're going to go out on that land and say fish or something like that, and that's where little people reside and that's where they live, then leave something for them. Leave like a spirit plate or something like that, a plate of food, or I don't know, leave some tobacco. That's a big one.
Yeah,
Um,
tobacco. Yeah.
so it's being respectful, leaving them an offering. The same thing with like Bigfoot and stuff like that. Like if you want to go out on this land, you want to go hunt, and like this is it's spiritual land. This doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to anybody. Then like be respectful. Don't throw trash on the ground. Don't you know pee where you're not supposed to and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
also just be respectful. Leave an offering. Leave it nicer than you found it. All of that stuff.
Yep.
So, but other than that, when it comes to like actually encountering little people, I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, guys. Pray.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what they say. Like, just don't ever take anything from them. If you took it from them, go
Oh yeah,
replace it. Like where you
yeah,
found it, go take it back to that spot where you
yeah,
found it is one
yeah.
thing, because that's what
Well, one
usually.
more, yeah, one
Oh wait.
more thing. Um, is I have a buddy, and he
Yeah.
he probably won't want me telling this on the air, but he wrote a script and I read it. And he sent it to me. He's like, "Hey, I know you make movies, man. We should make this movie." I'm like, "All right, here we go." The one thing being a director and filmmaker is like you get sent a lot of scripts and you read them, and a lot of times they're not good. Sometimes they're great, but you're like, man, I don't even have money or time to make my own movies.
I know,
But this
right?
one was actually really good. And as an Indigenous guy, he's the podcaster, and it was called like the pecan tree or something like that. And I could tell that he wrote it with a lot of life experiences in mind. And the story takes place with this woman and her daughter, and they're going to go pick some pecans out on this family land, this Indian land out in wherever Cherokee land, and this girl hasn't been there in forever, and so she goes and knocks on the door. This old man comes out, and he's like, "Oh, I remember you. Like I remember your parents. That whole thing with natives, And she's like, "Yeah, I just want to know if I can come pick some pecans. I'm gonna make a pecan pie." And he's like, "Yeah, just don't go past don't go past the creek, but you can go right down the street." And what does she do? Of course, she goes past the creek because that's where all the good trees are. And so
Yeah.
she's picking pecans, and her daughter's out there picking pecans, and they're having a good time, and all of a sudden her daughter's not there, and she's like, "Oh, where'd she go?" She starts screaming. She goes back and finds the old man. He's like, "The little people took her." And I'm not going to spoil any more of the story in case this movie does get made at some point. But um, that was one thing that just like makes my skin crawl. I'm like,
That is a
because
very good story. I was about to pull that bit and be like, Alexa, write down.
yeah, he's like, hey man, somebody made my movie. Did you talk about it on air? Wasn't me.
He's like, well, I don't know how. That's so crazy.
Yeah, oh, that's definitely. It's like, yeah, but like, I got you clipped right here. Anyway, I might cut that out. I don't know, but like
I
that
feel like
that
leave it.
story,
That's
obviously,
really good. I
you
like that.
know,
That's a
it's
really good.
it's fiction, but it's obviously inspired by real stuff, and
Yeah,
so like those are my favorite types of stories. Where it's like it could
same.
absolutely be real. But we're just kind of getting a glimpse into, you know, fiction and what could absolutely be real with a little bit of like creative, um, artistic ideas and stuff like that. And it was a
Yeah.
really good story. I was like, dude, I wish I could help you make this movie, but I can barely even make my own movies. So it's like, good luck. Send it to the right people. I'll vouch for you.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm interested in that
that was
movie.
a good one.
That was a heck of an opening. I'm over here like, what happens?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right. Okay. So, God, I feel like you were going somewhere and I cut you off. Can you think of it?
No, I feel like I think I ended it. I think I did. I feel like I was just
Oh well.
good. I wanted to hear what
Yeah.
you had to say because like I think I ended it and then you were saying something and I was like,
Yeah.
what'd you say? What?
I will say that I did have an experience not too long ago at the powwow we dance out down in Carnegie, and God, man, they dance out real late, and so we're sitting at our little campsite, and we're at the campsite at the edge of the powwow grounds. We're at the very end, and then so we could see the powwow grounds all the way over there, and they got all like the stadium lights up, and then
Oh, damn.
everybody else has got their teepees and their tents set up just all along the side of it, going around. And sure enough, man, it's around like midnight, and the power grounds are still going. They do these dances late into the night, which like when you're trying to sleep and you hear that like drum and you hear the singing and stuff like that. It's like, dude, that's the best sleep you'll ever have. It's like the perfect like, white noise that you can, or the brown noise. You're just like trying to sleep.
I know, right?
And anyway, so we're sitting around our little campfire that we got, and I hear all these kids over at the next camp over just running back and forth, hiding and playing hide and seek and all that stuff. And they're not playing flashlights or anything like that, but you can kind of see between like their campfire and other people's lights and stuff like that. You see little feet pattering back and forth, and there were obviously some real kids over there, but like part of me was like, are they playing with little people? Like it could obviously be so easy for me just to look at it and be like, oh yeah, those are just kids playing with toddlers or whatever.
Yeah.
But like this is midnight, it's 12:30 at night. Like these kids are really running around this late. And so like, I don't know, part of me wants to believe that it was little people, but realistically, probably not. But like I'm sure like a lot of I don't know, a lot of experiences, a lot of sightings and a lot of kids' experiences with little people is probably exactly what I just described. They're like, oh, we're
Yeah.
playing a powwows with my new friend. And I was just like, ugh, ugh. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna mind my own business over here.
I know, dude. That's a good. You know what's actually brought up so much. Like my grandpa used to talk about that, and
Yeah.
my grandpa used to tell me stories about like the deer woman and all that stuff, and it always did.
Oh
It's
yeah.
centered around powwows and stuff. So like, because that's where like tons of people would go. They would,
Hmm.
sometimes they might drink or do something, you're not supposed to, and you're hiding off or something, and then it would
Of
attract it,
course, yeah.
attract it from
Hmm.
like the woods or something, and the deer would
Hmm.
go there to try to pick up guys. That's what. So like, I always heard those stories happening at
Dude,
powwows. So
I love
yeah,
I love deer woman stories, man. Do
yeah.
you obviously you've probably never had any experiences, but are there any that you could speak of in detail from one of your, parents or grandparents or something like that?
No, I mean the only story they told me was it's like it was kind of just a classic horror story of, there was a power happening one night and there was a guy there, and the guy was more of a womanizer, but like a bad womanizer. He would drink and
Oh
gamble,
yeah.
and he only went to powwows to just pick up women. Pick up women,
Mhm.
go somewhere, stay the night, drink, take their money, go do the same thing, heading up, just traveling around, going powwows,
Oh
and
yeah.
then one night though he saw a woman and she was like one of the most beautiful women he ever seen, and she looked
Mm.
at him and he was like, man, this is a good looking woman, you know. And she had a car, and he was like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go see what's up. So he went over to her, and he was
God.
like, what's going on and stuff. And then you know, everybody else was kind of looking at him like, you know, like, what's going on with this guy? And then he was kind of like, what the heck's everybody's problem? He's like, hey, why don't we get out of here? And she's like, exactly what I was thinking. So, you know, they take off down the road, and, you know, no one ever heard from him again. And then, you know,
Yeah.
people was like, you know, where did he go? And then they was like, well, yeah, when he was going down the road, you know, and she was talking to him, he looked down at her feet, and when she was pressing the pedals, they were deer feet. And then when he looked up, she just cut his head clean off, you know, something like just horror film. And then the
Yeah.
reason everybody else was looking at him is because when people were around and, you know, walking around, she had deer feet walking around, and everybody was just like,
Mhm.
you know, do you see this? And then he was talking to her, and everybody was just kind of like, you're
Yeah.
talking to the deer woman. It was just like that.
Yeah.
That's the only stories I heard of just like the classic. They're like horror, not happening to anybody, but just like the horror of, you know, the horror story of like
yeah,
the
the
deer
classic
woman.
lustful man story.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Ooh, that is so spooky, man.
But that's
Yeah,
the story I
so
heard.
I've heard different descriptions of Deer Woman, and I do believe that she comes in different forms to different people.
Yes, yeah.
Of course, the popular one, you know, the one that's depicted on Reservation Dogs, is like you got this young, beautiful Indian woman, you know, she's freaking total babe, you know, she's freaking huge. Just, no, I'm just kidding. I'll edit that out. And
Just stop in your tracks.
you know, it's yeah, exactly. And you know, she wears like the shawl, you know, she's got beautiful dress on. She's got this long ribbon dress, you know, where you
Yep.
can't see her feet, you know. And you know, she'll go out there and she'll start dancing and stuff like that. You know, only like the keen viewers can see everybody dancing. They're out here looking, and all the feet. They're admiring everybody's regalia and their moccasins. And then with that keen eye, you know, you see those what looks like hooves, and you're like, nah, it can't be. She can't be here, you know. And sure enough, you know, you see him again. You're like, those are definitely hooves, you know. This beautiful girl just dancing out here, and that's one of those stories that's just all too common. And I did hear from my Uncle Frank that there are some powwows that, like, when you're walking in, they'll get this flashlight and they'll start looking at girls' feet when they're walking in. They're like, okay, you're good, you're good, you're good. Like a security guard at a concert, you know, it's like, lift them up, you know.
I was looking at the feet instead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you're good, go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah, and then also I've heard that, and this is the ones that we heard as a kid, is that she can appear as an old lady in need, as like a hitchhiker, or you know, someone out in the woods and stuff like that. And
That's
to me,
one I
that's
heard
even
too.
scarier.
Yeah,
That's
the
even
hitchhiker
more
one.
horrifying, because I don't know, maybe that's one of the reasons why I've got a phobia of old women or something like that. But God, just imagine this old lady, just real frail, you know, it's like the shawl on. She's like, you know, nonverbal or whatever, you know. And then you try to help her, and you see she's got them hooves. You're like, "Ooh," and by then it's too late.
You're just like, by the time you see the hoods, you know it's gone. It's done for. It's dead. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
the Reservation Dogs. That's what she was like too.
Yeah.
She was a hitchhiker. But that's one story my grandpa told me too. That the hitchhiking story. Like, if you ever see her, you know, if you ever pick up a hitchhiker that's a beautiful woman that you almost can't take your eyes off of the face, you better take your eyes off to look at them feet.
Oh man,
that's like
brother.
just like a trick, you know. It's like, you know, you're just too focused. You better look down. You better look.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, you know, and there's got to be something with her magic that like makes her beauty
like a
just
siren,
like,
right?
yeah, exactly. Where you can't look away, you know, like wherever she wants you to go, into the woods, you know, like let's go. You know, let's go to the woods. And that just scares the crap out of me, you know. So it's like, yo. And so when I'm out, you know, camping at the powwow and stuff like that, and I'm in my hammock, you know, like, please, dear woman, leave me alone.
Stay away.
Exactly. I'm a married man. Those are the ones she's coming out for too, you know. So
yeah,
God.
You gotta keep an eye out. You gotta
just
wear some
when I was a
glasses, just blocks everything out.
Yeah. When I was a kid, my dad's aunts, so my grandmas, they'd come out to the family land when we'd camp out, and they come out and tell us scary stories and stuff like that. And they're like, they especially love half breeds. And she looked at us, and all of us, you know, we're all half white or half black or whatever. We're like, no.
No, that's so funny that she said that though, because like that's what they would say too. My grandpa would be like, yeah, he was a white guy who showed up to the powwow. You know what I mean? Like he was like, she got him because he was a white dude taking advantage of Native women.
Dang.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's
Which,
funny that you
hey,
said
man, I
that.
believe if yeah, I do believe in Deer Woman, and I don't know if she's as prevalent today. Yeah, let's talk about it. Like, what do you think? Do you think that she's real?
I don't think she's. I think that one. I don't know though. Here's the thing: I never had experience, so like for me, I'm like, oh, that's not real. That
Mhm.
one was,
Yeah,
just to watch out for a scornful woman, maybe. But
sure.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very interesting because there is some people who like say that a woman helped them and stuff, and I'm like, maybe she is not
Mhm.
as evil as we think she is. Maybe the dear woman
Yeah.
is someone who shows up in a time of need, and then the story
Okay.
flips. Because
Yeah.
one time my friend he told me a story of a woman who was like really and he couldn't believe how helpful she was. She was also beautiful, and like she picked up, and he was kind of like, what is going on? And then so he said he's like kind of thought of the deer woman like halfway, but he was hitchhiking
Yeah.
from Albuquerque to Oklahoma, and
Yeah.
it was kind of magical. That's what like is crazy. And he was like, he told me that, he said, I was thinking, I think he did say he was like, because this is how it went. This lady
Mhm.
picked him up in the middle of the desert from Albuquerque, and he was walking, and he just ran out of a gallon of water, and it was just desert,
Okay.
and he was like, "I'm gonna die." And then, I don't know where this car's pulled up, didn't even hear it, and he was just kind of like, "Whoa, snap," And it was a
Whoa.
single woman by herself,
Mhm.
beautiful, and he was like, "Okay," and she was like, "Hey, where are you going?" And he's like, "I'm going to Shawnee, Oklahoma," and she's like, "Me too," and he was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm going to Shawnee, Oklahoma. That's crazy. Do you need a ride?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And he was like, "Yeah." I got in. He was like, I made sure my knife was in my back pocket. So he was like, "This is crazy," but she
Mhm.
drove him, and she even bought him a hotel. That's what was crazy. He said that he slept. She bought him a hotel room, and they stayed in the same room, but he slept on the couch.
No.
Yeah, and I was like, "That is crazy." And he was like, "Yeah." He's a dude. He's like, it just felt crazy that like, but he said the whole experience from him hitchhiking back to Oklahoma was just, it felt like magic. And that's what he was like, is he was like, "Is this the deer lady?" But he said when he slept that night in the hotel room, he slept with his knife like in his hand like that. He was just like,
Yeah,
just in
oh,
case.
absolutely. I would have done the same. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
then what was even crazier is when he
Yeah.
got back to Shawnee, when he made it to Shawnee, she dropped him off at a
Mhm.
gas station. And if you're familiar with Shawnee, there's it was a Circle K, I believe, but I think it's a Casey's. It's right across from McDonald's, right by
Mhm.
the mall. She dropped him off
Yep.
there, and the
I'm
moment she
familiar.
dropped him
Yeah.
off, and he got out of the car, he's one of our friends that we know. He's my cousin. Walked out of the store and was like, "Yo!" And he was like, "What are you doing?" And he met him, and he's like, "Whoa, what you doing, man?" And then she left, and so he like couldn't see her. And he's like, "Oh, this lady just dropped me off." And then he was like, "Dude, I'm going back to Sasakwa. Do you want to go to your dad's house?" And he's like, "Actually, yeah, I just told this lady I was going to Shawnee because I didn't want to tell her I was going to
Yeah.
Sasakwa." And he's like, "Well, let's just hop in. I'm going to Sasakwa right now." And he was just like, and it was just
Bro,
like a magical
that
moment
is
of like, how did
insane.
that's all was crazy. And I always wanted to make like kind of a movie about that, about his experiences like
Yeah.
hitchhiking, because there was a time when he was hitchhiking like all over the place, and like every time he
Yeah.
hitchhiked, it was a crazy story. But that story for me, I was
Yeah.
like, like the fact that she pulled in, and it was like midnight, and he was his
Yeah.
my cousin was coming back from the city, and then so it was like even crazier. The right time, right moment, she pulled in. My cousin come walking out of the convenience store, and he was just like, "Yo!" And then picked him up, took him
Yeah.
home. So the entire time he had a perfect ride home from this lady,
Yeah.
this mystery lady.
I mean, you know what I believe is
What?
that that temptation was there, and if he had acted on it, she
Ooh.
probably freaking would have.
Dude, I know,
She
in the
would probably would
hotel, in
have.
the motel. It wasn't even a
Yeah.
hotel; it was a motel. Imagine, I didn't even
Oh
think
yeah.
of that. Now I'm
Uh
adding
huh.
that to the story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, that makes sense for a deer woman story. She's just trying to see if he's lustful or not. If he was a good or bad guy,
Yeah,
and he wasn't. So she was good to him.
and he's a good
And
guy.
that
He's
kind
like,
of
he's
that's
a good
good.
guy in real life. So like that's
Yeah.
why, in his mind, he thought she was like gonna kill him.
Yeah.
He thought she
Yeah.
was like a serial killer or something, and she just wanted to like drive around and pick hitchhikers up and kill him.
Yeah.
But maybe he got that
Yo.
feeling
Well.
because maybe it was a deer woman.
Yeah, exactly. We got the extra sixth sense, man. Those
Yeah,
indigenous senses. So here's what I believe when it comes to Derwin and a lot of our other spiritual beings, is that I do think that she's real, and I do think that she's a spirit that comes when there's need. But I also think that she derived as a vengeful spirit, because I'm not
yeah,
sure if you're familiar with the lore of Deer Woman. But like way back in the Plains Indian days, is that this beautiful Indian woman was like dragged out to the woods, and she was beat and assaulted by a couple of Indian men, and she was left to die. And as she was dying, a doe came up and laid next to her and comforted her to sleep to death into the afterlife. And she couldn't move on, and so she stayed as a spirit to get revenge on those men as the deer woman, where she could transform into a deer or a woman or something in between, And but there are a couple of things for sure is that she always has hooves for feet, and I don't think that necessarily she's always evil, But I do think
Yeah.
that that temptation is there. Like she will turn on the evil when she has to. I think that is
Yeah.
that is real. And then some of the lore goes like if you're at a powwow, and we should have talked about this for the people who aren't familiar. If you're at a powwow and it's nighttime, and you're at a powwow, and you see this girl out there, whether she's dancing or not, and she's giving you those eyes, and you're like, oh dang, I'm gonna go talk to her. And then she's like, you guys talking it up, and she's like, we should get out of here. Let's take a walk with me. Don't do it, because she's gonna take you out to the woods. And what I was always told was that she's gonna steal you by stomping on your genitals and basically until you die. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the worst things a man could think of. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Um, so like I've never heard of that happening to anybody. So like that part I don't
Yeah.
necessarily
Same. I've
believe.
never heard of that.
But I do think that deer woman spirit, that medicine, is still around. However, I think it's less prevalent than probably ever before. And I think there's a couple things to that. I think the technology is probably one of them. I'm not sure how that really plays into it, but you hear a lot less about deer woman than you would 15, 20 years ago, now that there's cameras everywhere. And I don't know whether that just says that, like, oh, see, that proves that she's not real, or that maybe she's just like being more careful. But also that, just like medicine in general, these Native American practices, it's just our magic, our history is being lost every year with our elders passing away, and a lot of that knowledge isn't being taught to our people. And so like our magic, our spirits aren't around as much as they used to be.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's a lot of why, like, you don't see a lot of other Native American beings, or you don't hear a lot about these miracles and stuff like that you used to hear about. It's just because, like, that part of our culture is very secretive, and we
Yeah.
don't really hear about it. But also that it's just like, it's dying out, and those are
Yeah.
like the two realities. And I don't think that necessarily it's going to be gone for good. I think there's that possibility, but I do think that, and the more that I talk to people and elders and stuff like that, that there are there are keepers of the stories and bundle keepers, and they are preserving those things for the right time, whether we know about it or not. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, do I believe in deer woman? I do, just not the same sense as, like, the stories that we hear around campfires and stuff like that. Like, I don't think I'm going to run into her at a powwow. If I do, that would be horrifying. But I feel like it still could possibly be real to lure like really bad men,
Yeah.
you know, away and save women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't
No.
know. I don't know.
I heard that same story about them stomping, not on like your genitals, but like also just stomping on them,
Yeah.
like just like they find them the next morning because my grandpa and grandma used to tell me different types of stories, but it was always a lot of like just native folklore, and they talk about tell me about the deer woman, and every time it seemed like it was a new story of the deer woman. But and I feel like they were better
You.
storytellers than me, and I was like, gosh. But that's what they would say. They'd find the man in the middle of the woods who was there at the powwow. The next morning, he'd just be like, his guts would be just like ripped out, and he was like stomped on, like just like something stomped him to death.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so that's
And
that's
that's
also heard that.
yeah. And that's one thing that all my family, like, they're like, make a deer woman movie next. I'm like, man, I don't know how I could do it
Yeah,
any
that's
better than
hard.
the stories that we've already, told. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know how I would even touch that, because, you've got your reservation dogs, and before that you had Christopher Landon's, whatever that was, back in like the early 2000s, of Masters of Horror, and that was like a mini series or something like that, where it was all white people that made the deer woman story. But it was, still the same exact lore, where she tries to lure lustful men hitchhiking and stuff like that to hotel rooms and whatever else. And like, so you've got those two. Like, how do you make it any better? How do you make it any different? I don't know. Maybe there'll be a time later in life where I can figure that out, like how to do a very scary Dear Omen story,
Yeah, I know
because
that
in my
is.
mind, it's like, I don't know, like it's an old lady and kind of, I don't know, like this very particularly spooky vibe where it's not so much like a cool, sexy vibe. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's exactly where my mind was going. Is like it's hard because like it was always told as like a sexy woman, like oh she's so beautiful,
Yeah.
But wait, isn't there actually you know what we might have to take what is that called influence? Wasn't there like a movie like that where like I can't remember, is it like Arrival or something where it was like supposed to be like a lady and she was like but she was like an evil creature and she killed people too. I don't know if it's Arrival. There's like
It's not Arrival. You're thinking
Species
of something else.
or something
You
like
think of
that.
Species. Yeah,
Okay,
for
yeah,
sure.
that's what it
Yeah.
was. Okay, yeah, it's kind of that.
Arrival is with Amy Adams and
Oh
whatever, one
yeah, yeah,
Academy
yeah.
Award. That's a good
I don't
movie.
know how mine went, but
I know what you're talking about with Species, though.
it's just
That's,
I feel like it's hard to make a woman who's supposed to be beautiful scary, you know,
yeah.
because it's like oh well I guess it could be, but like at the same time it's like a lot of horror is like
Yeah.
scary, grotesque looking stuff, So
Sure.
that I feel like that'd be hard to
Yeah.
translate. I mean I know it could be done, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm smart enough to do that.
Yeah. Well, while we are on the subject, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. We're just
Go
going to
ahead, go
pause
ahead,
super quick.
go ahead. I'm gonna interrupt with a nice Dr. Pepper, not sponsored.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I wish we had a sponsor of any kind.
hit anybody watching. I'm joking.
Yeah, anybody watching, we would love sponsors.
Yeah.
Okay, so as some of you guys may know, some of you guys might not know, I am a published author, and I've got a new story, a new short story being published in this anthology book. It's a folktale anthology book called Secrets of the Forsaken, Into the Depths of Dread. And so you can see my name over here on the back, over there somewhere. Cary Thomas
Hey!
Cody. Heyo.
Let's
And
go.
so
Let's
I've
go.
got a very scary short story in this book. And since we're on the subject, it is about Dear Omen.
Oh.
And so I'll give you guys, I know.
Where can we buy the book
I
at,
mean,
though? Where can we buy the book?
well, where can you buy the book? I will let you guys know because right now it's just being
Made.
published in Canada.
Oh.
And so I've got a stack of books, so you can buy them from me directly.
Ooh.
So send me an email or a DM or something like that. But I'm actually working on my website to get it set up where you can click on the link and buy there, and it'll be shipped straight to your house.
Oh, that's
So
dope.
hopefully soon, the next month or so, we'll have something like that. But here we have, I'll show you the artwork. It's really
dude,
cool.
Did you do the artwork?
It's called
Who did
Dead
the
Hed.
artwork?
I did not. Honestly, I'm not sure who did the artwork. It's probably AI. I did nothing to do with this. I just submitted the story, and I got a stack of books that I'm going to sell, and I'm very excited about. It's called Dead Hed,
Oh,
and
that's
Head is
awesome.
spelled like that on purpose. It is about this truck driver in the 1980s, and he is a Vietnam veteran.
Oh.
And he is a native guy, lost touch with his roots a long time ago, and he did some really bad things in the Vietnam War, all the things that, the soldiers in Vietnam, they got called when they came back, like child killer, woman killer, all that stuff. He was all that. And so he came back, he's loaded full of PTSD. The only job he can get is truck driving. And so he's been doing that for 20 years or something like that. And he hears this very seductive voice on the CB radio, and then he gets lured to a truck stop. And from there, you can kind of guess probably what happens.
Oh.
But it's very gruesome, very brutal, lots of backstory with his experiences in Vietnam. And I did a lot of research into that, and the Vietnam War is just like one of the coolest. I don't know, like, and then movies, when you see anything about the Vietnam War, it's just like, oh, I'm like sucked in. So I was very excited to write in this time period. We're very excited to write the backstory there, and you get a lot of parallels from what happened to him in Vietnam versus what he's doing now. And there's some MMIW stuff in there too, which I feel like is appropriate. So Secrets of Forsaken, it'll be out this fall. I'll put a link where to buy it. But if you guys want to hang tight, I've got a stack of books that I would love to sign and give to you guys, sell to you guys.
That's
and
cool.
I will be able to do that in the link soon. So guys, hang tight. Send me a DM. I'll let you know when it's all ready. But yeah, I'm very excited about this one, and my story is really freaking spooky, and I think you
Heck
guys will
yeah.
like it. Cedric, I'll get you a copy. It's really cool. I'm
Yes.
really freaking excited because, of course I want to make movies. I want to tell stories in any capacity, but I also want to write books. I want to write short stories. Um, and so this is something I've been doing. And next year, I'm actually slated to publish my own horror anthology book, which is going to be Indigenous Scary Stories through the same publisher. And that'll probably come out next year. I haven't really talked about it anywhere because it's still kind of a big maybe, but I'm speaking it to existence. It's going to
Oh,
happen.
it's gonna happen.
And
It's gonna
yeah,
happen.
so, oh yeah, that's
Dude,
cool.
that's
So I'm
awesome,
excited.
man.
Dear Roman, well, we still got you for a little bit. Do you have any last questions, any last stories you'd like to tell? Because I've got some listener stories that I would like to read.
Well, if you want to talk about the Blumhouse stuff, I can.
Oh my God. Okay. So, okay. Yes. Going back to that, Cedric did a podcast with this last podcast 3 years ago, something ridiculous like
Yeah.
that. And we talked about Stikinis, the owl shapeshifters, which is horrifying. And since then, somebody reached out to him on email and was like, let's make a movie. So, yeah, tell us about it. What the heck,
I feel
dude?
like that's also a testament to, like, that's insane that they saw your podcast. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
no one cool ever watched my stuff. No one was like, you know,
Dude, whatever. You have
I was like,
135,000 subscribers. Shut
but
up.
I mean, like, it was crazy that they saw your, because it was like, I was
Yeah.
listening to the YouTube video, the podcast, the Skull Crawls podcast, and I heard, and I was like, whoa! And at
Okay.
first,
Okay.
that's the thing. When I got the email, I was like, this is a scam. There's no way this person's real. So
Of
I looked them up,
course. Yeah.
and then it looked. I was like, this person is real, and they do in fact
Hmm.
indeed work for Blumhouse. And if you're not familiar with Blumhouse, that's a huge horror production studio that makes, like,
Yeah.
they make all the crazy,
All the scary
The
movies. Yeah, exactly.
Purge.
You got your Halloween. You got the Purge. You got your Get Out.
Yeah, Five
Um,
Nights at Freddy's, the newest one.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Megan. Like
Exactly.
you got all these movies, dude.
But they reached out to me, and I was like, what? I was like, what is going on? But that was a very interesting, like, the whole thing. Shout out to Billy. That's the guy who emailed me.
Okay.
He was a studio executive for Blumhouse, and he was like, we're interested in, making a Indigenous horror film, and we want, well, it's a
Hmm.
series. I want to do an Indigenous horror series, or just like,
Wow.
crypto series about, like, cryptids. And
Okay.
they were very interested in Stikini, and they was like, you seem to know a lot about this, and we would love to, like, talk with you about it. And so we did a FaceTime, and that's where I figured out, okay, this is indeed a real person. And then, I saw him, and then it matched him online when I looked him up.
Hmm.
And so from that point, I helped him. I wrote a script, a pilot episode for Blumhouse for this horror anthology of series.
Holy cow.
And yeah, and I wrote that,
Wow.
and we went back and forth, and then it finally finished. And then he wanted me to. This is the funny thing. He wanted me to, like, act in it and, like, do, like, my main character part in it. And I've never, like, I don't act, dude. It was so horrible. Afterwards, I was like, this is going nowhere. Well, yeah,
Oh,
like,
well, you did act in it though.
yeah, I did. I was just
You
like,
guys shot it?
yeah, well, yeah, it was just like
What?
it was a what do they call it? They called it a sizzle reel, basically. That's
Sizzle
just
reel.
to
Yeah.
yeah, it's just to shop it around. And they was wanting to shop it around and
Of
get it bought
course.
by,
Yeah.
Hulu, or I think it was like Hulu, Disney Plus, or Peacock. They just want to get it sold. But yeah, we shot, like, a sizzle reel, and then they had, like, he couldn't tell me. He's like, we have the other part of this pilot episode. We have a very famous actor that I can't tell you right now. He never told me, because spoiler
Never
alert.
told you.
Yeah, I know I know, spoiler
Oh my
alert.
God.
It didn't get picked up. No one was interested in it, but I was okay with that because,
Of
like, when I
course.
wrote it, I wrote the entire first episode, and I was like, and it was very heavily based off of, it had to do with the interaction that from the last podcast of a Stikini,
Yeah.
it was my
Mhm.
Stikini reaction or interaction of, I heard it on the back porch, right, and it was, like, super
Yeah.
scary, and then, like, I wrote that whole thing up to that and everything, but when I acted, I was, like, saying lines and stuff, and I was like, oh
Mhm.
my God, that was, dude, I was just thinking to myself, like, this is not gonna happen. And then afterwards, I was like,
So did
that's all
you
right.
shoot like a reenactment of it?
Yeah, like, well, we shot, like, I think it was, what is it called? Like, I just did, like, the main character. There's gonna be two characters, and it was kind of based off of that, but it had to do with all Stikinis, right? And
Okay.
dude, I just remember like I was supposed to. He was like, "Now just be scared and stuff." And dude, I was just like, "There,
Dude, it's
there it is."
it's impossible to be scared, especially on
Yeah,
the
and I was
spot.
like,
You're like, now look
I was
scared.
like, oh my god! But
That's why, like, that was what turned me off on acting real fast. I was like, okay, now look scared. I'm
yes,
like, like,
yeah,
it's so hard. It's like the
it's
hardest
so
thing to do.
hard. You want to like laugh, and then he was like, have some fear in your voice when you say this. But they directed me and stuff, and it was just like so god awful. And I was like, oh man! But it was just they didn't,
Yeah.
they didn't have a lot of budget to shoot the pilot, and they just wanted to hurry up and get it
Yeah.
done. So like, they was like, yeah, can you do it?
Oh,
And I
that's
was
such
like,
a bummer.
I guess.
Can you hire an actor, maybe?
Yeah, I was like, y'all spend all y'all's
Any
money on
actor?
the big name
Anybody
actor.
else?
Yeah. And but I did write it, and it was very interesting because that was the last moment I kind of had with like Hollywood, like doing Hollywood stuff. But it's something I always wanted to do, and it was a dream of mine to make a Stikini show. And
Well, dude, congrats on that opportunity. Even though it didn't get picked up,
yeah,
that freaking who cares?
I know.
Like,
I wanted to like
that's really, really cool.
that, right? I thought it was really cool. I wanted to bring you guys like a gift sometime because I was like, it was cool that like being on your podcast got that gig, But
Sure,
I feel like
absolutely.
it was what was
I mean,
interesting.
and also like you never know like what's going to be in someone's back pocket.
Dude,
like okay,
right?
you did that for somebody. Like they might want to do something for you later on, or like like maybe that opportunity comes back up way later down the road, and they're like, hey, that guy.
If any
So,
studio
wow.
execs are watching this, these are all our stories. We will sell them to you for a price. But
yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah. But it was interesting because it made me like really want to go more the independent route because like when I did write the stuff, I gave it to them and then they sent me back rewrites, and the rewrites I was kind of like, oh, I don't really like this. Like instead of my character.
So yeah.
Hearing the thing, I was wanting them to be like, get a gun and be like, what's out there and shoot it like a normal American would, but like, and in theory, but it really helped me like understand that like there's a formula in Hollywood, right? And like that's what he eventually was like, because I was like, oh man, that's kind of stupid, because in my version the character runs after the Stikini into the wood. He runs into the woods in the middle of the night to see what it is, and I was like, I don't know any person who would do that. I mean maybe, but like. Normal people, they heard what I heard, and they heard a scary thing running into the woods. And he was like, yeah, exactly, though. He's like, that's the formula. He's like, there's a whole, and they explained to me, like,
of course, yeah.
Hollywood has a formula, and they want it to be a success. And because these formulas exist, and you see it with cliches, as the cliches of the movies, is because when they write it out and they do that, it succeeds, and they have to make money. And it really made me think, like, oh, man, I kind of don't like that I have to go by this formula, though, And I understood it, because if they took a risk, if they took a gamble on me, and they like was like, okay, yeah, let's go with your story. And then it sold, and then they made it, and then everybody was like, this is a stupid story, and nobody watched it because they said it was stupid. They would lose money on me, and then it'd be a bad investment for doing that. And they'd be like, see, we told you. You should have listened to us. He should have chased them into the woods. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
But it was a very interesting story. But it was a great experience. It was super awesome. I've never, done anything like that before. And they were pretty good, I will say. Some people were like,
did you get paid for anything or no?
No, it was all like pro bono, because there was like, when we sell, that's when everybody will get money. That's when the funding comes in. Yeah, that's what funding is. Right now we're just trying to get it going. We're just trying to use what little funding the studio has just to get sold. But when it gets sold, or when it gets like, once they're interested, we're gonna be like, okay, we have to pay this guy, we have to do this, we have to get it all stuff. But they was just want to get a sizzle reel going, just to be like, are you interested in this idea? If you're interested in this idea, we need $1 million.
Oh yeah, for sure. God, I wish I would have got picked up. That would have been awesome.
I know, it would have been crazy. But then again, I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because they did change my story. Like my original idea of the Stikini. It was still the Stikini, but like, it just had more like modern
Hollywood
horror. Modern horror, especially now for Hollywood. And I was kind of like, ooh, I was like, it was kind of cringe too. Like when they changed it up a bit, I was like, dang, this is kind of cringe. Even my friend was helping me. And he messaged me and he was like, what did you think about that? And I could tell he was like, because
he's wanting you to say it.
Yeah, he's wanting me to say it. And I was like, very cringe, right? He's like, and then he was like, if we want to continue this, he's like, I'm all in. He's like, you just say the word, buddy, I'm all in. And I was like, yeah, I was like, maybe it doesn't get sold, and then that's our saving grace. Because he was like, if it does get made and then it like comes back, people are gonna be like, they wrote this, you know.
Yeah.
This is gonna be embarrassing. And I was like, yeah, I know it. Like, it did kind of get like a little embarrassing, where it was like, it was too modern, But like, that's where
Yeah.
I was want to talk about. I really liked. I wanted to do it old style 80s, because that's
Yeah.
kind of the magic. And when you said your story takes place
Oh,
in the
yeah.
80s, I was like, yes, I love it. Something about those 80s,
Hmm.
like, it's not. There's no cell phones.
Yeah.
There's no like none of
Yeah.
that. And I kind of want it to like take place in a time where it's a little bit more scary, where there's not a lot of technology,
Yeah.
to where you can just be
Hmm.
like, hold on, I'm about to call the army and just send them and firebomb this
Yeah.
area type stuff. But yeah, it was a
Yeah.
cool little
Seriously.
scenario that I did with the Blumhouse, and it was all thanks to your podcast. So big shout out to the podcast. Big shout out to Billy at
Look,
Blumhouse.
we're out here making magic.
We're out here making magic, dude. It's so crazy. I always think about that. I'm like, dude, I need to like get you guys like, I'm gonna have to bring a gift when I see you, because like
Dude,
that was pretty
that would
cool.
be awesome. Yeah.
It was a
I'll
cool
take a chameleon.
yeah. And then
Give me a lizard.
it was just because like I think about that. Like, I think our podcast, that was early. Like, when I was on that podcast, I think I only had like 10,000 subscribers. I was very
Holy
like,
cow.
it was 3 years ago, but I was really young into the YouTube career, or like getting,
Yeah.
I don't know, YouTube following. And like, it was like, when we did it, it only got a couple hundred views. And I was like, for a couple hundred views, one of those people was someone in Hollywood who makes scary movies. And I think that's like, no matter who. So like, sometimes when people make stuff online, they're like, only got 20 views, or I only got 100 views. I'm like, dude, it took a couple hundred views, and a Hollywood guy saw it, and he messaged me, and we started making a series. So it doesn't matter, I think that was like really cool,
Yeah.
And who knows?
You never know where the opportunities can come from.
Yeah, he might be subscribed, and he might be just sitting here like with, because that's what he was. It was like at the time, Res Dogs
Eating popcorn for part 2.
Yeah, eating popcorn. He's like listening. He's like, that's a good story. Let me email them. Yeah, he might email you next, Cary. You never know. You might be next thing. He's like,
yeah, please do.
Yeah,
he can write something too. Come on,
dude. He might like, you never know. He might be subscribed, and he might just be like, these guys are cooking some good stories. I might have to, this short horror story he just talked about the truck driver from Vietnam. I like that.
Oh,
and then it gets picked up for a show. Exactly. Because I just feel like it was an interesting, connection of that. But it was all from the last podcast of talking about the Stikini, and that's what it led to. But I'm also kind of glad it didn't get picked up, because I feel like I wanted to do my own version, and then that's what led me to the YouTube.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted more creative control, and it was very.
Yeah, then that's the dilemma when you're a writer, and you sell to somebody and they butcher your script and turn it into something that you don't like, and you're like, well, I mean, I wanted to do it but better. So it's like sometimes you got to let go of certain things, certain stories. But if it's something that happened to you, like, nah, save it for something special.
Exactly, right. And that's what I felt like. I felt like I gave away. I was like, dang, that's such a good story too. I was wanting to keep that for myself. And I was like, well, maybe. Because, again, it's like Hollywood. It's like, man, you imagine making a show with Blumhouse and be like, yeah, and it is your story. And they didn't change much, but they just changed certain things that I was like, I
gotta ask, did they give you access to the clip? Is that something that you could share with me personally, or no?
No, they did. They did not. So, and I feel like I had all the scripts and I deleted them because it was on my email, and I was like, oh no, I should have downloaded those, because I had the final script.
You can always rewrite them. That's all
I know,
good.
Yeah. But I mean, I had the final script that they sent me to. Like we both was going back and forth, the writers, like me with their writers, and then finally we got the final script of like what it would be for the sizzle reel and stuff. So when I got that, I had it, and I'm about to look. Maybe I could find it. Maybe I should give that to you. Just show you what it led
That'd be fun. Okay.
Yeah, be cool to look at it. But yeah, I know. I think I deleted it. Because I was just like, oh well, over with.
Well, sweet. All right. Well, we still got you for a couple more minutes. I mean, I got you for however long I want.
Yeah.
But I got some listener stories that I would love to read, love to dive into.
Let's do it.
Let's take a look.
Do it. I just had to give props to you for that, because like it was.
Dude,
I say it was all because of you that happened.
Dude. Well, hopefully for both of our sakes, something like that happens again, and we could both do something really cool together. That'd be freaking awesome.
I know, because I tried to shout you guys out. I was like, "Hey, man, remember where you saw me at? Okay, those dudes are cooking up horror all the time. Okay."
You're like, yeah. Okay, come on. That's not what we want.
Give us the Stikini story. Stop talking about it. Give us the Stikini story. We don't even care about you. Just give us the story.
Exactly. Stop talking.
Yeah, stop talking.
All right. All right. So this is a couple stories from our TikTok. Our TikTok manager, Kate, she posted on the channel, "Give me your craziest paranormal experiences you've ever had. I'm not talking about some random lights flickering or animals staring into space. I need talking with a ghost or kid remembering past life type stuff." And Shyla, actually, your cousin, she commented, she said, when my daughter was 3 years old, she told me the craziest story I've ever heard a toddler say. She heard the ambulance sirens, so she began to tell me, when I was younger, an ambulance came to save me. A car rolled over me, and there was blood everywhere. They took me to the doctor, and he tried to save me, sewed me up, and then I was gone. And then she says, I was like, like, I don't even know how she could have make this up out of thin air.
Damn,
Those were her exact words.
That's
She
crazy.
would tell me randomly creepy things at that age. She told me once that this boy was needing some help to look for him. And then I feel like she also, no, that was it. Extra spooky though.
That is crazy. I think I heard that same story. I think she
Uh-huh.
told me that too. And I was always like,
Mhm.
oh man, that makes you wonder, like, you know, if we were children, like what did we have a past? They
Uh-huh.
do say like we have past lives, and then they say some
Oh
people
yeah.
don't have past lives. They're like a first timer, on Earth.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting. Huh, I've never heard that.
yeah,
I thought it was just like, all or nothing, but that makes a lot of sense. Like, of course, there'd be first timers.
yeah.
Wow. And my buddy Anthony, shout out Anthony, he commented, I was walking home from school in 6th grade, and it was kind of an overcast day. I used to cut through the backyards because it was quicker. It was a quicker way to get home, and I looked over in my backyard and I saw a long, dark figure on all fours. It paused, and we exchanged stares. When I blinked, it was gone. Spent the rest of the day trying to process what had just happened. And Kate says, yo, that's some horror movie stuff. And he says, it was haunting for sure. It was more of a silhouette than anything. The appendages seemed almost spider-like, disproportionately longer than the rest of its body. The size of it had me in a state of shock. That's the end of that one.
Dang.
Yo. So for me, it kind of sounds like he got a glimpse into like the spirit realm or something like that, where
Yeah,
like there was like a tear in the fabric of space, and maybe, he got a peek into the other realm, or maybe some creature was in our realm or something like that.
yeah.
So extra spooky. And this guy says, his name's Isaac, says, my dad used to have a witch that lived behind his house when he was a child, and he would tell us stories of Miss Heaton. I was in the basement playing one day, and the radio randomly came on, full blast, even though it hadn't worked in like 10 years. And the basement door flew open when it was bolted and screwed shut. We moved out the next day, 15 years later, in my own house, and I'm still iffy on going into a basement because of that. That was fun.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. And here's another one from ZB. Shout out. I was sleeping on the couch and woke up to a little boy at my feet who was trying to touch me. I was completely frozen, couldn't push him away. He's been around a bunch of times since, but only if you sleep downstairs. Another time, I know someone ran their hand over my hair when no one could have done that. And the case says, this is terrifying. And you saw the boy often? And she says, yeah, every couple of months. I don't sleep downstairs anymore for that reason. Yo.
Don't like that. No.
All right, here's a little bit of a longer one. Okay, so at the time, I was working in food service at the hospital. Our food service thing was in the basement, so was the morgue. Well, I had just gotten out of the basement with my carrier, think fridge on wheels, but like metal, not as heavy. So like a little push cart. Anyway, I felt a tug on it, which isn't too weird because me and my coworkers at the time would do that to each other often. So it was kind of like, hey, quit that. Playfully, of course. And I looked over the side of the carrier and saw a shadow dart back, like peekaboo style. I literally walked around the whole carrier. There was no one. Creeped out, but I shrugged it off. That night, I was starting to feel like something was watching me at home. And when I would lay in bed, I felt something in the doorway. I could literally feel something watching me. It made me feel like more anxious and scared than I usually was. And eventually, I reached out to a Norse pagan friend of mine who told me to go outside and offer it a bowl of water. If it was something negative, it would leave. So that's exactly what I did. And I kid you not, at that exact moment, my neighbor's donkey scream, brayed, and since then, I haven't felt that spirit.
Dude, the
Interesting.
hospital ones are crazy. My aunt works at a hospital, and she always has the craziest stories with hospitals.
I bet, dude. Yo. All right, I got a couple more, and these are from a group chat that I'm in about little people. So I think they're all little people themed. I haven't actually read them yet, but give me just a second. Let me
Speaking
blast these
of
up a little bit.
LPs.
Oh, yeah. That seems to be the theme recently. All right. This one time, long ago, me and my cousin Dylan were at his house. And his place was way up in the village on the other side of the res, and we were playing guitars till like 3 a.m., just young teenagers. Don't smoke weed or drink nothing, plain sober. Anyways, at 3 a.m., I tell him I'm going to go down to the house, bro, cook something. Then he said, hey, I'll come with, brother. So we left his place in the middle of the village where the gym and ball field is, and we got into the field to take a shortcut. As we were doing, we heard people coming down. They were drunk, walking, 3 of them, arguing. So me and Dylan walked off the field near the church. My dog is barking, guys. Sorry about that. Just ignore. Church area, we wait on the side of in the darkness behind us. Dark forest. Sorry, this is all one run-on sentence. In the church, not 100 yards away, they kept saying, let's go. Behind us, a clear little girl's voice said, help, help, twice. Man, Dylan's face just went white, and his eyes round. He turned towards me. He was already looking at him. Hey, did you hear that, bro? Yeah, I did. What did you hear? He said, help, twice. Little girl's voice. I said, yes, I heard the same, man. I felt like someone poured a cup of ice cold water down my back and my neck. Dylan said the same thing to this day. We bring it up in here. Limited explanations. It was real. We heard that. Some say skinwalkers, some say maybe little people. Lots in the village say maybe satinijay. I'm not sure. That means devil bird in our language. Year 2006.
Ooh.
That's pretty spooky.
That is. I would say little people. That's what it kind of feel like. If it's a little girl,
that's what it. Mm-hmm.
Calling out. They always say they call out to you, man. They'll make you come out there.
Oh, spooky stuff. Okay, one more. Well, once back in 1994, it was during the summer, and I lived in a single wide trailer, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. My son's bedroom was at the far end. I had kids over at my house all the time, so every room was taken. So I had a couch that folded out into a bed, and it was about around 11 p.m. when I settled down to go to sleep, and I checked all the rooms before I went to sleep. Everybody's in their bed sleeping, so I have fallen asleep. We had a hallway and had a sheet hanging down because the lights are always there, and then the hallway is super bright. And I was laying down around 2:30. I heard boots walking up and down the hallway, back and forth, back and forth. And I yelled the first time, "You guys go to sleep." The boots stopped, and then I fell asleep again. And I heard the boots again, walking back and forth again. And it kept doing that about every 5 minutes or so. And then I got freaked out and got up and threw open that sheet, and I said, I told you to go to bed. There's nothing standing there. Nobody's standing there. And all the freakiest thing I ever heard or ever seen, because there's nobody standing there, I went to the room because I thought the kids were playing a joke and they were all sleeping. It took me, I looked at the other 2 rooms and everybody else was sleeping, so I figured it was a ghost. And even to this day, I talk about it. I talk about it, get the chills every time. So that's all we got for the night, guys. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the reader stories, everybody else. I appreciate you. And Cedric, dude, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me yet again.
Dude, we'll have you on regularly because this is too much fun, and you're just freaking full of good stories and good energy, and you're as funny as crap, so I appreciate you. So one thing we do on the show is when we sign off, we always have a phrase or a saying or something like that, so think about it. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Suspend Disbelief. If you guys want to find us, we're on YouTube, which is probably where you're seeing this video. We're also on Instagram at the Skull Crawlers, and we're on TikTok at the Skull Crawlers. And we got a Facebook page, which, like 40 people like it, but that's fine. You can find us on any of those things. We're going to be posting a whole lot more on TikTok, specifically just about paranormal experiences, podcast stuff like that. So tune into that. It's popping off. Have a good time. And shout out to Kate for managing the TikTok. I appreciate you. She'll be back on the podcast. But anything going on with us right now? We're working on a short film. Hopefully, we'll be putting it out sometime this spooky season. We'll see. We still don't know what we're doing with it. It's called Crooked Face, which is going to be very spooky. So stay tuned for all of that. And until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for suspending your disbelief. And thanks for wearing your brown pants. And Cedric, any famous last words?
Nothing. I don't have anything.
All right.
I was
That's totally
suspended
fine.
by your beautiful commentary.
Well, I appreciate that. Hey, guys, check out Cedric. You can find him on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Go ahead and plug your channel really quick.
Oh, yeah. I'm Chief Sweet's Universe, but I also have other channels, and they all go under Chief Sweet.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. Good night.